Hi, and welcome to Reddit Confessions. Grab a drink, settle in, because what you're about to hear is the unraveling of something I thought would last forever, until it didn't. She left the coffee cup in the sink. That's how I knew it was over. Not a message, not a tearful goodbye, just a lipstick-stained mug, lukewarm, abandoned beside the faucet, like everything else she grew tired of. And no, I'm not being dramatic. That cup was part of a pattern. She used to rinse everything, even cereal bowls. But lately, things stayed dirty. Words, dishes, glances. Then came the note. Not a long letter, not even a full sentence. Just 3 words, scrawled on a receipt from the dog groomer. I need space. No name, no explanation, just that. I stared at it for 10 minutes. Flipped it over to see if there was more. Nothing. The back had a discount code for nail clippers. My first thought, she must have had a bad night. My second thought, she's not coming back. But here's where it really twists. She didn't go to her sister's like I assumed, or her college friend's place 3 cities over. No, that night, the very same night she claimed she needed to clear her head, her phone location showed up at a boutique hotel downtown. You know the type. Edison bulbs, velvet headboards, and no room for guilt. I watched the blue dot hover there for hours. At 2:14 a.m., it went dark. By morning, her social media was quiet. Her toothbrush was gone. Her side of the closet looked robbed, like someone had looted love out of my life overnight. But I waited, like a fool, like a loyal, spineless fool. 2 days later, I got a message from her friend Shelby, a screenshot. My wife was in a bar, sitting on some guy's lap, kissing his cheek like he was the one who'd fixed her broken cabinet door last month. I zoomed in. She was wearing my hoodie, the one I bought her when she said, "You're the only person who makes me feel safe." You know what's funny? That hoodie cost me $60. The divorce papers I filed after that photo cost me $411. You do the math. I didn't react right away. I didn't storm over to the hotel. I didn't blow up her phone. I sat on the living room floor, same place where we opened wedding gifts 9 years ago, and stared at that screenshot like it was some twisted piece of modern art. My wife, my hoodie, her hands around a stranger's face like it was the most natural thing in the world. I remember whispering to no one. So that's what space looks like now. The days that followed were an absolute mind meltdown. I'd go to the fridge and forget why. I'd walk into the bedroom and just stand there. Her scent still lived in the pillows. Her necklace was still on the nightstand, like it was mocking me. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I kept checking the hotel's Instagram to see if they'd accidentally posted them in the background of some influencer brunch reel. I wanted more proof, as if what I had already wasn't enough to crush me. She finally texted on the 5th day. Casual, as if nothing happened. "Hey, hope you're okay. Just taking some time to reset." Reset? Like we were a router. Like we had an outage that needed a reboot. I stared at her message and had to restrain myself from replying something cruel, but I didn't. I was still the good guy, still the one who didn't want to believe the woman he married would implode our life over a weekend fling with a guy named Kenton, or Brendan, or whatever boring chin man she'd chosen. Instead, I sent her one thing, a photo of the divorce papers, and signed but dated. No caption, no explanation. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions in total silence, the same silence she left me with. Her reply didn't come for 2 hours. But when it did, it was the first time she broke her polished tone. "Ellis, are you serious?" Dead serious. And finally, something shifted in her voice. The certainty cracked. She called. I didn't answer. She called again. I let it ring. She texted, "Please don't do anything stupid. You're being emotional." That part, "you're being emotional," almost made me laugh. Of course I was emotional. You don't destroy someone's home and expect them to thank you for the open floor plan. But that's how she operated now. Detached. Like I was the unhinged one for reacting like a human being. 2 days later, she showed up unannounced. She walked in like nothing happened, like she hadn't vanished into someone else's bed under the excuse of mental clarity. She said, "I didn't expect you to be this upset." I just looked at her and said, "You wanted space. This is what space looks like." I handed her the envelope. She didn't even open it. Just stood there like her whole world was rewinding too fast. "Wait," she said, "we should talk about this. I just needed time. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I told her, "You didn't mean for me to find out. That's all." She tried crying. Not because she was sorry, but because she didn't expect consequences. She thought I'd be here, holding her place, forgiving her like a puppy who gets kicked and still wags its tail. But I wasn't wagging anymore. When she left that night, she didn't slam the door. But this time it sounded loud. The thing about heartbreak is that it doesn't knock. It just walks in, opens your fridge, drinks from the carton, and leaves everything half empty. After she left again that night, no explanations, no apologies, no fake promises of change. I sat in the dark and stared at the front door like it might open again. Like she might come back and say something real. But deep down, I knew she wouldn't. Not the woman I used to know, anyway. That version of her had evaporated somewhere between the hotel check-in and that reset text. But here's the part no one warns you about. People like Maeve don't fall apart right away. They unravel slowly, when they realize the game doesn't reset just because they press pause. The next morning, I forwarded the divorce papers to her email with a subject line that just read, "Acknowledgement requested." I didn't write a message. I didn't need to. I wanted her to see her entire future in her inbox, sitting next to Sephora coupons and chain letters from her aunt. By afternoon, she responded with, "Can we please meet? This is escalating too fast." Too fast. I spent 10 years building a life with her. She spent 10 minutes deleting it with a kiss that didn't belong to me. That escalated fast. Still, I agreed to meet. Part of me wanted closure. Another part, the broken, bleeding part, just wanted to see if she looked guilty. We met at a coffee shop we used to go to every Sunday before grocery runs. It used to be our little corner of the world. Now it felt like a crime scene with free Wi-Fi. She walked in wearing that same scarf I gave her for Christmas 2 years ago. I wondered if she wore it out of guilt or to manipulate me. Knowing her now, probably the latter. She sat down, avoided eye contact, and said, "Ellis, I was confused. I never wanted to hurt you." Classic. I asked her, "Then why did you go looking for someone else while I was still pouring coffee into your cup every morning?" She opened her mouth and then shut it like the words she rehearsed didn't fit the room anymore. I let the silence stretch. It was the only honest thing between us now. Then she said something I'll never forget. "You were just too safe. I needed something unpredictable." Like I was a mattress ad and she wanted a roller coaster. I sat there stunned, holding back a laugh that wanted to come out as a sob. Too safe. Too safe to cheat on. Too safe to build a family with. Too safe to respect. I told her. You know what else is unpredictable? Divorce court. She got quiet. Real quiet. For the first time, I saw something crack behind her eyes. I think she really believed I'd just let it slide. That I'd be the same guy who apologized when she forgot our anniversary. That night, she texted me 8 times. The first was an apology. The next 6 were excuses. The last one just said, "Please don't ruin everything over one mistake." But this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. A long, deliberate choice that started before that hotel room and ended with my signature on the dotted line. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Her panic was doing the talking now. You'd think someone who wanted freedom would know what to do with it. But freedom without foresight? That's just chaos wearing a pretty face. A week after that awkward coffee shop meeting, where she told me I was too safe, while sipping a drink I paid for, she started sending longer texts. They came at odd hours, like regret only hit her when the guy beside her fell asleep. One message stood out. It said, "I think I was just overwhelmed. I didn't know how to feel alive anymore. With him, everything felt exciting, but it doesn't feel real now." That's when I knew the fantasy was breaking. The hotel nights, the spontaneous kisses, the secret giggles over wine glasses. It had all gone stale. And now, her new man, this messiah of unpredictability, was starting to show cracks. According to her messages, he hated commitment, left his socks in her sink, and thought paying for dinner twice meant he didn't need to text back for days. The same man who made her feel seen, now couldn't be bothered to look at her when she spoke. And me? I stayed silent. Not out of strength. Out of exhaustion. I had nothing left to explain. I let her unravel in her own text threads while I focused on practical things. Canceling joint credit cards, removing her from the insurance policy, changing passwords she used to say she'd never forget. Each step felt like deleting a virus from an old computer, slow, tedious, but necessary. Then one afternoon, my phone rang. It was her. I nearly didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. She was crying. Not sniffling, not dramatic sobs, just broken. Quiet. Shaky. "Ellis," she said. Can I come home? Those 4 words. 4 tiny words, and my entire body went stiff. I asked why. She paused for a beat too long, then said, I made a mistake. Mistake. As if she'd knocked over a glass of milk, not poured our marriage down the throat of a stranger. I asked again, why do you want to come back? Her silence told me everything I needed to know. It wasn't love. It wasn't guilt. It was fear. Fear that the world beyond me wasn't as soft as she imagined. Fear that the arms that held her now had no intention of catching her when she fell. I don't have anywhere else to go, she whispered. He left. Of course he did. I told her, calmly. There's nothing here for you anymore. She broke down. Said she didn't mean to ruin everything. Said she thought I'd always be there. That she just needed time, but not forever. I said, Maeve, you didn't just burn the bridge. You danced on the ashes. She begged. Full-on begged. Said we could go to therapy. Said she'd quit her job, block every contact, start over from scratch. For a split second, my heart cracked open, not from love, but from the sheer wreckage of seeing someone so cold now so desperate. But I couldn't do it. I wouldn't. And that night, for the first time in months, I finally slept like a man who had nothing left to lose, and even less left to save. I thought that would be the end of it. That after she begged and cried and realized the door was really closed, she'd slink off into the mess she created and disappear from my life like a bad dream at sunrise. But of course not. People like Maeve don't vanish. They linger. They strategize. And when they can't win your heart back, they start pulling strings you didn't even know existed. It started with a message from her mother. Ellis, she's hurting. She made a mistake. Haven't you ever made one too? The irony of being guilt-tripped by the woman who used to lecture Maeve about not settling down too young was almost impressive. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't just moving on, I was finally starting to see the bigger picture. The patterns. The warning signs I'd ignored because I was too busy loving her to notice how little she respected me. One night, I couldn't sleep. I opened an old external hard drive to back up some files. Taxes, home repairs, the usual. And buried in a dusty folder labeled Maeve, college stuff, I found an old video project she once made for a class. I clicked it, more out of nostalgia than anything else. And that's when it hit me. In the background of one of the clips, a party scene, blurry and chaotic, there was a guy. Tall, blonde, familiar. Not in a way that you recognize a face from a crowd, but in a way that makes your stomach knot without knowing why. He leaned in and kissed her neck. She giggled and turned off the camera. That was time-stamped a year before we met. That wouldn't have mattered. Everyone has a past. But I remembered his face. Because I'd seen him once, years later, at her old office's holiday party. She introduced him as a friend from college. His name? Kenton. The same Kenton who showed up in her messages. The same Kenton who she cheated on me with. This wasn't some random man she fell into during a crisis. This was a long-threaded connection. A fallback plan. A man she never really let go of. My heart sank. All the years I spent believing I was her one and only. The safe harbor she chose after youthful chaos. That was all fiction. I wasn't plan A. I was her cleanup plan. Her backup. A softer landing after burning through the first spark. And suddenly, everything made more sense. The way she kept certain photos hidden. The one drawer she always kept locked. The bizarre mood swings every year around October. Their anniversary, I now realized. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a timeline built on half-truths and omissions. I took a breath, stepped outside, and stood in the cold just to clear my head. My lungs burned. My hands shook. I wasn't even mad. Not in the way you'd expect. I was hollow. Like everything inside me had already been taken, and now I was just waiting for the rest to rot away. The next morning, she emailed me again. I think about you every night. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I still hope. I didn't reply. I forwarded the video to my lawyer instead. Because if she thought she could rewrite history, she was about to learn what it feels like to live in the truth. The thing about building your life on lies is that eventually the floor gives out. And for Maeve, the collapse didn't begin with me slamming doors or exposing her to friends. It started quietly, with a few conversations she didn't realize I wasn't shielding her from anymore. Her unraveling began at a charity auction. She was there with a few co-workers from her old marketing firm, pretending like her life was still stitched together. I hadn't planned on being there. I didn't even know she'd be attending. But one of our mutual friends, Jackie, invited me last minute. She didn't know what had happened. I hadn't told anyone yet. But something in her voice when she said, "Maeve will probably be there too," made me say yes. I wore a navy suit she used to say made me look too serious. I guess that was the point. She didn't see me at first. I stayed toward the back, watched her float through the crowd like nothing had happened, smiling, laughing, resting her hand on people's arms when she spoke, like she was still the woman I fell for. But when she turned and our eyes met across the room, her whole expression changed. Like the air had shifted. Her smile fell off her face like makeup in a rainstorm. She froze. I didn't wave. I didn't need to. Later, during the wine hour, I found myself standing in a small circle with two of her coworkers and a man named Brian, the CEO of a boutique agency she once begged me to help her get a contract with. I was polite. I listened. I made jokes. And then, casually, I mentioned I'd be finalizing the divorce papers next week. One of her coworkers, Taryn, blinked. "Wait, divorce?" she asked. "You and Maeve?" I nodded. She looked stunned, then curious. I could see the gears turning. Something didn't add up for her. That's when I knew Maeve had told no one. Not about the separation. Not about the cheating. Not even about leaving. She was still pretending to the world that she was just figuring things out. That night, I didn't post anything dramatic. No cryptic quotes. No public accusations. But I did something small, almost invisible. I changed my relationship status. Not on Facebook. That's too loud. On LinkedIn. Just 2 words. Previously married. That was it. By noon the next day, 3 people had messaged me. The day after that, someone from Maeve's office posted a group photo from the event. She was tagged. I wasn't. But I was in the background. Just slightly out of focus. My presence didn't go unnoticed. That's when it really began. The phone calls. The panicked texts. The message that said, "Ellis, please don't talk to anyone. This isn't fair." Fair. Was it fair when she told me I was too safe, while she hid an ongoing emotional affair with a man she never fully let go of? Was it fair when she asked for space while booking hotel rooms under her maiden name? But the truth is, I still hadn't said anything. Not really. I hadn't exposed her. I hadn't dragged her through the mud. I simply stopped protecting her. And the silence was louder than any scandal. That weekend, Jackie texted me. She was upset, not at me, but at Maeve. Apparently, Maeve had tried to twist things, saying I'd been controlling, that I pushed her away. Jackie had known us for 8 years. She wasn't buying it. "I don't know who she's trying to convince," she wrote. "Because it sure as hell isn't me." That hit hard. Because for the first time, someone saw what I'd seen for years. Not just the collapse, but the construction. The way Maeve had always shaped reality to fit her image, even if it meant painting me as a shadow instead of a person. Now, the image was cracking. And she could feel it. She called again. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, a soft, breathy, almost rehearsed version of herself, saying she still believed we could rebuild. But what she didn't understand was that you can't rebuild something you never truly built in the first place. Because I was never her foundation. I was just the scaffolding holding up her illusion. They say betrayal is worst when it wears a familiar face. But what no one ever tells you is how deep it cuts when it's not just betrayal. It's a lie so old it rewrites your memories. A week after the event, things went strangely quiet. Maeve stopped messaging. No more late night, "I miss you" texts. No passive-aggressive emails. Just silence. At first, I thought she'd finally accepted the inevitable. That she'd retreated into whatever life she thought she could salvage. But the quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt staged, like the calm before something ugly. I was right. It started with a call from Maeve's younger cousin, Sienna. She's 22, bold, blunt, and someone Maeve had always tried to keep at a distance. Sienna and I had always gotten along well, mostly because I treated her like an adult, not some annoying teenager. So when she messaged me, I wasn't surprised, until I read what she wrote. "Hey, I know this is random, but I think there's something you should see." She sent a screenshot, a text conversation, between her and Maeve, dated 2 years ago. "Maeve, it's not like Ellis will ever find out. He still thinks I ghosted Kenton in college. I never told him about Atlanta." Sienna, wait. You went to Atlanta with him after you were married? Maeve, it was just a weekend. I needed clarity. That's it. Sienna, that's not clarity. That's cheating. My hands went cold. Atlanta, 2 years ago. That was the weekend she said she was attending a women's leadership retreat. I remembered helping her pack. I remembered driving her to the airport. I remembered hugging her goodbye in front of the terminal, telling her how proud I was of how far she'd come professionally. She'd gone straight from my arms into kittens. For 2 years, she carried that secret. Slept beside me, kissed me, held my hand in public, all while knowing she'd already broken our vows long before the recent affair. That hotel wasn't the beginning. It was the continuation. Everything in my chest caved in. I didn't respond to Sienna right away. I just stared at the messages, over and over, until I felt like I wasn't even reading English anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't crying. I was just suspended, like time had stopped moving. Eventually, I replied, "Thank you." That night, I took out our old wedding album. Not to reminisce, I needed to see it. To remember if there were signs, clues. I studied every photo like a detective trying to decode a crime scene. Her smiles looked too perfect. My eyes looked too trusting. I wondered how many moments were genuine and how many were just well-timed performances. The next day, I sent her one text. Atlanta, 2 years ago. Leadership retreat, huh? She didn't reply for hours. When she finally did, it wasn't denial. It wasn't an apology. It was panic. "Ellis, please." That was before everything got messy. I didn't know what I was doing. "You were married. You knew exactly what you were doing." I didn't love him. It was closure. Closure doesn't involve hotel keys and fake conferences. That's when she broke. Message after message poured in, justifications, emotional manipulation, desperate retellings of our history in her own rewritten version. She said she had felt alone, that I worked too much, that I was distant. But I wasn't distant. I was stable. She just wanted drama wrapped in romance. Then came the final blow. "You were always going to be Plan B." He was the love of my life. But he didn't want a family. My hands trembled. My breath stopped. Plan B. It wasn't the cheating. It wasn't even the lies. It was the truth that I had never been her first choice. Only the one who was dumb enough to stay when he walked away. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. But I knew one thing. She hadn't just lost a husband. She had lost the one person who still believed there was anything left of her to redeem. The day the divorce was finalized, it rained. Not the dramatic, movie scene kind of storm, just that soft, endless drizzle that makes everything feel heavier. I remember standing in the courthouse parking lot, looking at the papers in my hands, and feeling numb. But not in a bad way. It wasn't grief anymore. It was release. Maeve didn't show up. She signed her part electronically, probably from a borrowed couch or a quiet office no longer charmed by her smiles. I thought I'd feel more. Anger, sadness, maybe even satisfaction. But what I felt most was clarity. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was living in the shadow of someone else's half-truths. That evening, I drove to a small bookstore I used to visit before we got married. It was still there, still quiet, still smelling like paper and dust and second chances. I sat in the back with a coffee and just let myself exist. No questions, no checking my phone, just me. And it hit me. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the start of one I got to write myself. In the weeks that followed, things began to shift, not with grand gestures, but with small wins. I reconnected with old friends I'd drifted from. I joined a hiking group, even though I hadn't climbed anything taller than a curb in years. I adopted a dog from a shelter, a scrappy little mutt named Radar, who has no sense of personal space and eats socks, but follows me like I'm his whole world. I guess we're both a little bruised, learning to trust again. Maeve tried reaching out once more. She emailed me a photo of us from our honeymoon, saying, "I still dream about this day." I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, just peace. Because healing doesn't always come in loud declarations or revenge plots. Sometimes, it's the quiet mornings. The coffee that tastes like closure. The silence that no longer hurts. So, if you've ever been someone's plan B, someone's emotional crutch, or someone who was betrayed by the person you trusted most, just know this. The worst day of your life doesn't get to define you. You do. Thank you for watching Reddit Confessions. Now it's your turn. What moment in this story hit you the hardest? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let us know if you've ever experienced something similar, or if you'd have done something differently. Until next time, stay strong, stay smart, and stay far away from anyone who calls betrayal just a mistake.